You're listening to the Becoming ZESTY podcast. We are Megan and Dr. Alex, and we're so happy that you're here.
We are passionate about accelerated transformation, yours, ours, and the collective.
Personal and professional for coaches, practitioners, and leaders of all kinds.
Between the two of us, we seem to have done things the painful way. So let our pitfalls become your stepping stones. We are not afraid to share our raw and vulnerable truths in order to help you transform your thinking, your body, your heart, and your soul.
Combining over 15 years of functional medicine with brain-based habit change to lead you to create the life of your dreams, supporting yourself through all four bodies, physical, mental, emotional, and energetic, every step of the way.
We are transformation accelerators, wholeness cultivators, empowerment experts, speakers, authors, mentors, and change makers for a more loving world. By combining Dr. Alex's MD experiences
with Megan's mindset magic, we've helped hundreds of thousands of people transform their lives, and we can help you too. If you're ready to accelerate your transformation and have so much fun doing it, then stick around. We've got you covered. Quick reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor, not this doctor, before making changes. Now let's get into today's episode.
Well, hello there. It's interview day here over at the ZESTY podcast. So today I got to interview Laura Schoenfeld. We just finished the conversation and it was so good all the way to the end. Right at the end, I got to update her on some of the things, some of the takeaways I actually had from her event. I went to her Nourished CEO live event maybe a month or so ago. It was a 2-day event. It was really, really fun. It was something I could drive to from here, a whole room of female entrepreneurs in the health and wellness space. It was really cool. It's really rare that I go to events where, I have a business coach and go to events, but not to have everyone in the room be in the nutrition space was really, really cool, or health space. So Laura is someone I've been in contact with a really long time, and I love to learn from her. She is a fabulous teacher. She's very, very good at breaking concepts down simply and creating a structure and framework. And she jokes, she's like, oh, here's another framework. So people who feel a little bit like, gosh, it's overwhelming to start a business. Gosh, I have a gift and I need more structure. She is your gal. I got to be in her NBA as a mentor. It was a really cool experience, just sharing with people and helping people in there. And I got to see the behind the scenes of how she runs it. She runs things very, very smoothly. So Laura Schoenfeld is a registered dietitian with a master's degree in public health, is an esteemed business coach who specializes in helping health and wellness entrepreneurs create scalable online businesses. Her passion for integrative nutrition and women's health, combined with her entrepreneurial acumen, has enabled her to run her own multi-six-figure consulting business successfully for over a decade. I cannot wait for you to hear today's episode. I want to get right into it. And we're going to put links in the show notes of how you can find the next steps of working with her. She has a free blueprint guide that you might as well all go download and do. You can do it on your own time. And really, really hope you enjoy this today. So please, if you're listening, please tag us, share it in social media, share it in Instagram. What was your biggest takeaway? Tag me, tag Laura. And what one thing are you going to commit to doing from this so we can hold you accountable? You'll see that's one of the things that Laura's really good at, is saying she's going to do the thing and doing the thing. So let's have you share with us and we can hold you accountable. We're so happy that you're here. We so appreciate when you tell your friends about our podcast or leave reviews. And let's get into the episode. Well, hello there. Welcome to the Becoming ZESTY podcast. I have a special guest today. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Megan.
So Laura Schoenfeld is here to hang out with us. Y'all are in for a fabulous treat. I'll give you a little backstory. I'm sure you already know who she is. And if you don't, so I first found you, Laura, through Chris Kresser's work. when you were working for him or with him or all of the above. And I remember seeing you in there. And then I remember seeing you, I don't know, 5, 7 years later in the James Wedmore world. And it all combined together, the amazingness of functional health and nutrition with all the good stuff from online business. So I wanted to talk today about kind of what it's taken for you to combine those worlds. And from an outside point of view, and now knowing you more, just I see how much you do and I see how big you think. And I would love for our listeners to really get a taste of the beliefs and the strategies and the skills that are underneath that.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Will you start just by telling everybody your the background, where your health background, and kind of how this transitioned into what you do today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna definitely glaze over some details because it's like I think like a 12-year path. But essentially, I got into health and nutrition primarily because of my mom. My mom's a dietitian and got us into like the Weston Price stuff back when I think I was 12. I came home from school and opened the fridge and saw this nasty looking gallon of milk. And we're like, ew, what is this? And it turns out it was raw milk. And now I'm a huge fan of raw milk. So, grew on me. But anyway, so we got introduced to this whole other world of nutrition beliefs. And for people who aren't familiar with Weston Price, it's like very non-conventional as far as like recommending butter and raw milk and lots of animal fats and that kind of thing, which is pretty much almost any health education you get is probably not promoting that, right? So that was my introduction to nutrition. And then I got more into it as a career path. I mean, I hate to say it. I think this is a common dietitian story that there was some like orthorexic behaviors and beliefs that made me very, very obsessed with health and nutrition. Positives as far as learning about it, but negatives in terms of the application and the level of attention I was giving it. And then I went to grad school for nutrition at UNC Chapel Hill, got my master's degree in public health and my registered dietitian degree at the same time. And then basically jumped straight into online business. I had started working for Chris Kresser, I think like 6 months into my graduate degree. So I was helping him do research and content creation and email marketing and doing honestly a lot of the behind the scenes of running an online business for him, which is how I really got my first exposure to that as a thing. Because I feel like back then, this was 2012. I don't think there was a lot of people doing blogging and podcasting and email newsletters and marketing and selling programs and all of that. And so being able to support Chris and his business gave me all this exposure to what would be possible for me when I graduated. So I basically, as soon as I graduated, just went straight into my own business and then grew my business to multi 6 figures of revenue in the nutrition space. I think I would say primarily helping women with things like fertility and gut issues was kind of like my somewhat of a niche. And then in 2020, I started a mastermind of health and nutrition entrepreneurs because I was in my own masterminds. I had joined our coach James Wedmore's Business by Design program. And I just was like really starting to enjoy teaching about the marketing stuff. And the more I got out of that focus on health and nutrition and like kind of was like, all right, I don't really care as much anymore. I'm good. I'm healthy, whatever. I just started getting so much more interested in the marketing piece. So then March 2020 hits and all of a sudden everybody who's a dietitian in the nutrition space and the health space was forced to figure out online business if they wanted to keep running their business for at least a few months into the early pandemic. And I just saw this huge opportunity to support those people because I had been doing it for years at that point and I had a lot of skills and knowledge on how to set this up. So that was kind of where the Nutrition Business Accelerator launched from. So that was summer of 2020. I ran a beta and then I had my first official launch of that program fall of 2020. That was my first 6-figure revenue launch. And then since then, I think for that program alone, we've done like 1.2 million or something on sales over the last 3 years. So that program is like I don't want to say my bread and butter, but it is the main way we make money in my business now. And I've learned so much about sales and marketing from not only doing that successfully, but also working with coaches, working with mentors, being around other people in like I'm in James Wedmore's mastermind, and I just learned so much about it all through those interactions and those processes that I go through in my own business. And I knew I said that was going to be a nutshell. I think that technically was a nutshell for a 12-year story, but just to give people context, because I feel like 12 years in online business is kind of like you're a dinosaur at that point. So there's like a lot of stuff that's happened to get me to a place where I feel like I mostly know what I'm doing. Don't always know what I'm doing, but a lot of times I do.
Well, I guess I got lucky too because my husband was in the military. We moved every 3 years, so I had to be online because there wasn't any local place I was going to set up shop for long enough. So I see that, though there were so many people who that was brand new during that time. So really common is that, and same with me, I got into the health space to help people, and I remember saying, I am never going to have a blog, a podcast, any of that, right? Like I'm not doing that part. I'm just going to help people. And then you realize you got to find the people.
Yeah.
And they have to know that you are there, no matter how amazing you are. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what we get thrown into. And now it's like, oh, I guess I have to learn business in online business and funnels and emails and all the things that come with it. So what would you say is the biggest block or struggle for most people when they're shifting from the like, I'm here to help people, and then realizing there is this world that it'd be very helpful to know?
Yeah. Well, I honestly think one of the biggest challenges, especially if you want an online business, because I do think an online business is very different than a brick and mortar local business. The way that you're going to market that and sell your stuff is extremely different. So whereas somebody might just Google nutritionist in Raleigh, North Carolina, and just happen to find you, they're not necessarily going to find you if you're taking online clients and you don't have a really particular niche or set of solutions or skills that you can speak to. And in the last 3+ years, there's so many people doing it now, way more than there ever were when I was doing it. I mean, when I started my online business, it was like weird that I did online health stuff and programs. And it was like, I didn't know anybody doing that, or very few people. And now it's like, there's a program for every single thing that you could possibly think of. And there's a expert in every health topic that's out there. And so I think the thing that people get, I don't want to say stuck, because it really is a choice if you're going to get stuck or if you're going to move through it or take the steps that need to happen. They're coming from this, see anyone that comes to you, take insurance, sell your time, don't turn anybody away. You have to help everybody. That kind of belief system, which is, I think, the people that I tend to work with, that's what they got taught, whether it's in school or just, from society as women in the health and the helping space. And that belief set ends up preventing them from doing the things that actually grow a business. And it's funny because I just ran a money making workshop. Basically, it was a planning for 6 figures in 2024 workshop. And the number of nasty comments I got about how health experts shouldn't be focusing on money was like out of control, right? And people just saying you shouldn't be putting profit over your patients. And to be fair, I agree with that. You shouldn't put the pursuit of money over the well-being of the people that you work with. But I just thought it was so interesting how many people just assumed it was a or B decision. You either care about making money or you care about helping people. And I think because of that, whether it's obvious or kind of like under the surface belief that people have, they don't even think to learn how to run a successful money-making business, because whether it's conscious or subconscious, their belief is that, well, if I really want to help people, I shouldn't think about how to make money. And if you're not thinking about how to make money, why on earth would you care about learning how to run a business properly? Because a business is meant to make money. Like, that's what a business is. We could just do this for free if we didn't care about making money, right? So I feel like the combination of beliefs where people think they should just help anyone that comes to them, and then the belief that wanting to make money makes you bad or evil or selfish or whatever the belief is, those two together end up preventing someone from even learning the skills to build a business, let alone once they know those skills, actually taking action on them and following through on them.
Oh, that one makes me so sad. It's hard to see the idea that I can't be a healer and make money, or right, there's something, just because I've known so many people who have like the most amazing gifts. Like they are true healers, right? And with all their different skills and what 12 years of school and all these things, and just really struggling with owning, just saying that I am worth charging money for. And then they've end up burnt out, not even really able to keep their business, and going back to working for someone else. And often it's in a structure that they don't even really agree with. Like friends have ended up back in like a hospital structure that they didn't want to be. And I'm like, is that worth it to hold on to this belief? Like, I want the people who are doing that kind of work to have all the money. Like take the money. They're the people who are going to change the world and build a different system and change conventional medicine. And so I love that you're speaking to that and really bringing awareness to that, because I think those are the people we need the most right now.
Well, and I know you know this, being in the world that we're in together, but I feel like the belief that you're bad or selfish for making money is predicated on the belief that the money is stopping with you, right? Where it's like, I'm just hoarding all of this money and these resources and taking from people and, making it harder for them to have a good life because I'm taking their money. And first of all, you're probably delivering far more long-term quality of life value to them than what they're actually paying for, which is actually what I teach when it comes to designing and pricing your offers. Is how do you actually develop an offer that does provide more than what the person's paying for? That should be the goal. But then also, how many of us that make money just don't spend it on anything, right? Like I don't just hoard a bunch of money and stick it in my bank account, just let it sit there, right? Like I'm going out and I'm spending money on other people's livelihoods. I go to a restaurant, that's paying for that waiter to make money. I go to get a massage. That means that massage therapist gets to do what they love doing. And, obviously not all massage therapists love what they do, but a lot of them do, or they would find a different career path, right? So it is one of these things where somebody in this space who cares about people having money is actually a really positive thing. And I just, for whatever reason, feel like people just have this perception that making money means you're hurting others.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I was like, yeah, it's like, I've paid you, you pay me. We work with all sorts of people.
Like exchanging money back and forth, and a little bit going to the government.
We all have a different gift and a service. And then that creating that community where you can easily, I know how much money I would pay to have found certain people earlier in my journey that would have fast tracked a lot of the stuff that I hit my head against the wall for years. Like I think we're forgetting sometimes like what that actually does when we find someone like a guide or a mentor early on.
Well, and just think, as the person who's providing the service, how much time and money you've spent to even get to the place where you have that knowledge. Because I know for me, my graduate degree costs $70,000, and all of the business education I've done since then has been like $400,000 plus 12 years of doing it. That if I can help somebody save $400,000 and 12 years of the learning process to help them get up to speed with what I know, how much is that worth, right? Like surely it's worth at least 10% of the time and money that I've spent to get there. So I just think people tend to really downplay how much work and time and effort and money that they've put into their own ability to help people. Even if you are gifted, there's still a lot of hours that you've spent and you've committed to your life to being an expert at what you do. That that is worth something. And if you can save somebody 5 years of struggle because they don't know what you know, then again, what is that worth? I think it's honestly probably even worth more than any sort of like, physical thing that you could buy with that money. And I really do believe, especially with health, I know it's hard to put a dollar amount on health, but it is one of those things. If anyone's ever been unhealthy, as I know you have experienced, and I've experienced more of like the hormone challenges, but that really can massively hurt your life, right? To the
Mm-hmm.
point where it could be something where you don't get to have a family, or you don't get to have a job, or maybe you have to like be on disability, or like there's some pretty serious health issues out there that really negatively impact people's lives. And I just think people tend to devalue what it would be worth to not experience that anymore in somebody's life.
Right. And so I got to come to your amazing 2 day Nourished CEO event, which was fabulous and fun, by the way. Such a great room of people who are ready to just do the work and do the stuff and go all in. So it was very cool. And I love that title. So let's talk about like the Nourished CEO. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, and for me, it's changed a lot since really since having my child. I have as of today, 16-ish month old, which is a really interesting age. There's a lot of death prevention happening right now where it's like, oh, running out into the middle of the parking lot, not a good idea, honey. So anyway, just being able to see it from a new perspective as a mom, because one thing I don't think I totally realized before I had children is how hard it is to hold all of the different parts of your life in your brain when you're not just single and like doing everything for yourself and like have all this free time. And I think as a new mom, I've just noticed how aggressively I have to defend my schedule, how intentional I have to be with how I spend my time, and really even just getting really unapologetic about what I charge for my services. Because if I didn't do that, I would be literally crushed, right? Like I would be running ragged. I would be working all the time. I would have no time to do anything that I enjoy doing, let alone like have quality time with my daughter. And so being a Nourished CEO to me means making the decisions and having the discipline in your business to focus on the things that matter and eliminate the things that don't, or delegate if you have to delegate as, instead of eliminating, but just really focusing on your zone of genius and also valuing your time to the point where it's actually bringing in the money that you need to do both, to have a life and to run a business. And I think this whole money mindset thing is usually the first domino for a lot of people, because if you think about the people who are seeing 35 clients a week because they're not charging enough to see less than that, and then at the end of the day they're a shell of a person, and they don't have a workout routine, they don't connect with their spouse, they don't spend time with their children the way they want to, or they feel like I have to quit my business if I want to have a relationship with my children. And I just feel like that way of being is so unsustainable for people, especially the healing experts, because we do pour so much into our clients' well-being. And I also feel like the people who are helping others, they need, it's that so cliche, put your own oxygen mask on first. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to keep serving people at the level that you actually are capable of. And you will have to take steps back, and you will show up without the energy that you want to have on your calls with clients. And it really is, it could either be an upward or a downward spiral where your well-being is a huge factor that influences the results, not only of your business financially, but also in your ability to serve your clients and your ability to be a leader if you have any team members, anything like that. And so it's a really hard thing to do. And I know for me personally, after having my daughter, it's gotten a lot harder to make space for myself. But there are a lot of decisions I make that really are intended to protect my energy and to make sure that I'm not getting sucked dry by all my life responsibilities, because I do know that my clients will benefit if I am taken care of. And I do have balanced nervous system and I am getting enough sleep and I do get time off and I'm not on the computer for 12 hours a day, right? So and a lot of times the thing that allows that to be the case is how much you're charging and how much money you're making, because if you have an abundance of revenue coming in, it does give you space to not work as much. It does give you space to hire help. It does give you space to maybe pay for advertising instead of having to be on social media all the time, right? So for me, the money piece does come first. It also helps me pay for a housekeeper, so I don't have to be like going downstairs and cleaning our house after a long day of work. It helps me pay for some childcare so that my husband and I can work and not be like scrambling to figure out who's watching the baby. So I do think the money piece tends to be that first resource that we need to be that nourished CEO. But even the people who are making a lot of money still need to actually decide that they need to take time off and to make space for, personal wellness and hobbies and relationships and that kind of thing. So it is difficult, I would say. I mean, like I said, it's something that after having my daughter, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that looks like for me. But I'm just really passionate about it because I do think entrepreneurship is amazing and it can also be really harmful if not approached in a way that puts your own needs, I don't want to say first, but honestly, kind of first. Like you kind of do need to put your needs and the business's needs first when you're making decisions about how you're going to operate things.
Laura, was that easy for you to make the switch into, okay, I can understand my time is valuable, so someone else will clean or someone else will cook? Or was that an easy shift? Because a lot of people we work with have a very hard time letting go of certain tasks that are somehow become part of their identity or they feel guilty not doing.
I wouldn't say it was hard for me. I think personally, I just hate doing things like that. So if I can pay somebody else to do it, I'm going to do it all day. I think the hard part for me was not letting other people's opinions negatively impact how I felt about it. Like I definitely have family members who have made comments about how absurd it is that I have somebody coming to clean the house every week. And, everybody's going to have an opinion. And I just, I literally cannot imagine having to, after a busy work week, having to then clean the house. Like we've had a housekeeper for, at this point, probably 4 years, I think, maybe three to four. It has to be at least 3.5 because it was before COVID that we had somebody coming. And I'm almost at the place where I can't even imagine not having one because it's just absurd to me to imagine taking time to do that when I could be doing stuff that's so much more valuable, either in the business or in my own personal life, which is spending time with my husband and my daughter. So maybe hopefully that normalizes it for people. I also spend a lot of time with people who that's all totally reasonable and normal for them. So being in a group of whether it's friends or peers or in a coaching program or something where other people are normalizing that behavior is really helpful, because if I just listen to what my family and my friends say about the choices that I make, it would probably kind of drag me back into the belief that I'm a bad person if I have a housekeeper, which, to be fair, the housekeeper that I have, we pay her really well. And she uses that money to do stuff that she wants to do, right? Like that gives her a job that's very flexible, allows her to do it when her kids are at school. We're pretty flexible as far as like, oh, I'm going to Disney World this week. Okay, cool. We don't need you every single week. It's not a big deal. And it's so easy for her to take time off. And so that's another thing I look at is like, what is having a housekeeper actually doing for her? And it's funding her life and allowing her to do something that she's good at and she enjoys. I know there are people out there that enjoy cleaning. It's not me, but there are people who do. So just giving other people a job is another thing that, I'm not a big like luxury handbag person, right? Like usually I'm not super into that kind of thing, but I'm big into experiences and support. And if it's a combination of the two, that's where I spend the biggest bucks is like mastermind retreats and stuff. But I just feel like there really isn't any reason. Nobody's winning if I'm cleaning the house, right? Like who actually is benefiting from that? Nobody. And I know there's this like bad mom vibe about, oh, if you don't do your own laundry or you don't do your own housekeeping or you don't, spend all your time with your children, that you're a bad mom. And honestly, I think Vera, my daughter, gets a better version of me because I'm not like, hold on, I can't play with you because I have to clean the house. So for me, it's easy to justify, but there are people that have opinions that don't support that choice, which is fine.
Awesome. So I see you as a person who's willing to do things that maybe other people aren't, or having clear boundaries. You kind of go all in. That's how I see you from a business perspective, and just how you operate, how you run your program. So I got to be in NBA helping kind of mentor, coach in there. So I got to see how you ran it. Have you noticed that you seem to be willing to do things that others aren't? And if so, would you just share what it is that you do?
Yes, I definitely think so. And boundaries are funny because I've been told I'm an intimidating person. So I think even when I set totally reasonable boundaries, people can react pretty intensely because they think I'm being mean or harsh. And that's just, I've come to realize that that's just the energy that people get from me, is like that intense energy. And if it's something where I have to say no to somebody, it's received as like, that's hurtful or whatever. Not all the time, but for sure it happens a lot. So I kind of just had to, I had to learn how to be okay with making other people upset, and not in the sense that I'm like actively trying to be mean to somebody, but holding that firm boundary even if the person does get upset, which I'm like this weird combination of a, like, yeah, I do things that most other people wouldn't do, but I'm also like a recovering people pleaser, as far as like that being most of my life just wanting people to like me and wanting to like fit in and stuff, which is funny because I think the very fact that I don't fit in is a big reason why I've been able to do a lot of what I've done. But I do think that there were a lot of times where setting those boundaries were really hard, and I had some pretty strong emotional responses to the way people responded. And for me, a lot of it's just like, you almost just, after you experience that and you realize how dumb it was to get upset about somebody being upset that you set a boundary, it just gets easier. So for me, a lot of it's just practice. I don't think I'm some unique person that just has been born with a really strong sense of personal boundaries. I think I just kind of like set them and experience the reaction and say, okay, I didn't die, set another one. Okay, I didn't die. Like just kind of keep setting them. Um, and then, after becoming a mom, I think it's easier to set boundaries because I'm like, yeah, maybe I don't put myself as high as I probably should, but if it starts to get in the way of me being a mom to my daughter, then I'm like, no, we're not doing that. So it's a little bit easier to set those boundaries. But I feel like I would imagine some of it's a personality thing, as far as like being willing to do stuff that others aren't willing to do. And I also have some like weird personal life experiences where when I've decided I'm going to do something, it happens. I'm a manifester in human design. And I just think like there's times where I say, I'm going to do this. And it's literally, it happens. Even instances where that happened when I was like 8 years old or something. I remember I'm going to go find a crystal in the backyard. And I actually found one. And my mom was like, where did you find that? Right. So I just have all these experiences where when I decide I'm going to do something and I'm going to get something, it happens. And sometimes I forget about that. And I'm like, I wish I had a more consistent memory for that. Cause there's a lot of experiences that I've had where I get a glimpse of what I'm capable of. And then, the circumstances of the world and all of that tend to like cloud that over. So for me, I think um, there's a lot of times where I just do stuff because I don't know that I can't. So that's probably a big belief, right? Is like, I don't just, I don't have to like convince myself that I can do things. And then there's a lot of times where something is hard and I've just decided I'm going to do it. So I just assume it's going to happen. Like even giving birth, I did an unmedicated birth and that was really hard, as anyone who's done that would know. But I just like, there was no plan B for me. I was like, that's just the way it's going to be and I'm going to get through it. And that's, I think for me, a lot of it is really, it just comes down to being very decisive about what I'm going to do and just not thinking this won't work and so I shouldn't do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The manifester.
Yeah.
I love that you're a manifester. Yeah. Just bringing in that energy and like, this is what's going to happen. And you do it.
Yeah. Well, and it's
So,
funny. All I'll say is it's funny. I think a lot of times when I'm not in that energy, it's because things don't always happen immediately, right? Like there is a time lag, and sometimes being in that time lag, that time of it's not happening can start to be like, oh, maybe this isn't going to happen. And so I have to be really conscious of not letting myself go there because for me, that's a really bad mental state to be in. And it's easy to get sucked into, negative predictions, I guess is what we would call it. Like, I don't know why it's like if something is good, you assume it's not going to last, but if something's bad, you're like, this is going to last
no,
forever. It's like, why? Why? But yeah, so I have to be really mindful of that because that is my Achilles heel, as they say, where if something doesn't happen right away, I start to get like, maybe this isn't going to happen, and maybe I made a mistake, or maybe I shouldn't have done that. But usually it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't work out, if I zoom out far enough into the future, usually I find out later why that thing didn't work because something else
mm-hmm.
better worked, right?
Get a little redirect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I know one of the things you're passionate about and help people with is anyone in the nutrition space, the health coaching, dietitians, nutritionists, going from maybe the model where they're doing a lot of like time for they're working for the money, right? Like that's just them. And if they're not working, they're not making anything. And they're just kind of hitting a cap with that. And I know you said something about 35 people in a week. The most I ever made it to was 20 clients in a week. And I mean, I did do hour to 90 sessions, so maybe that was longer, but that like about destroyed me. That was like, oh, okay, no. So
Yeah.
that's when we shifted into healthy hormones group. And anyway, so just share a little bit, give a little inspiration for those people who are still a little not stuck, who are still just choosing to be in that model and maybe would like to make a jump. Like what resources are you teaching in MBA, or what could you share with them?
Yeah, I would say the biggest shift that we help our clients make is the shift from session based selling to program based selling, which is kind of what you alluded to a minute ago. Because I do think most healthcare providers are in that model of selling for the session, which is normal, right? Like that's how insurance pays us. That's how if you go, like I get massages, and to be fair, I actually pay for a membership, so I don't actually pay per session, but you could just go book a massage, pay for it, and then you're done, right? So that is a very typical conventional model of healthcare, the way that you work with clients, patients, whatever you want to call them. But as you were saying, there really is a limit to how much, if you're somebody who really cares about your clients, because there are people out there that it's just a job. Like I remember when I was working my internship at a hospital, our quota was to see 17 people a day.
What?
For I mean, I wasn't getting paid, so it didn't really matter if I didn't hit that quota, but like that was the expected number that the dietitians that worked at that hospital were expected to see every day. And if they weren't hitting that, they were going to get, in trouble basically. And so when you're in that kind of model, you almost have to disassociate from even caring about like, did you even help the person? It's more just like a checklist to say, yep, I did that person. Yep, yep, yep. And I followed that protocol and I wrote those notes and I logged it in that system. And it's very focused on how much time did you spend and how many patients did you see versus the way that I teach, which is, did you actually help the person get the result that they wanted to get from you? And the funny thing about that is the number of sessions or the amount of time you spend with somebody really has very little to do with, do they actually get a result? And I find that the most successful, financially successful, and the happiest people I work with are the ones that have learned how to turn what they do in a one-on-one setting with their intellectual property, with their methodology, with their unique, like what makes them different, and being able to turn that into something that can be delivered without their time. Those are the people that make the most money. Those are the people that really have that time and financial freedom. And their clients also get better results because how many people go to see you for a session and even remember 20% of what you said? So, like, even if
Right.
you gave them the most helpful information in that hour, they're going to forget 80% of it. And so, if they don't even get 80% of what you shared with them in that session, how much are you really even helping them in a one-on-one session versus if you've developed a program that allows them to go through materials, go revisit stuff, take action on things. Maybe it's paced in smaller chunks. So it's like a 10-minute video instead of an hour-long appointment. They can watch it on their own time. I would say like I used to be more of a get all my stuff done during the day kind of person, but now I'm like, I watch videos at 9 o'clock at night because that's when the baby's asleep and I feel like I can finally relax and focus. Right. So who's going to want to meet with me one-on-one at 9 o'clock at night? Probably not a lot of people, but I can go watch their video and
Mhm.
still get what I need to get the result that I want. So I actually feel like those scalable deliverables in a lot of cases can actually be more valuable for people than the one-on-one time. And that is a belief that a lot of my clients have a tough time fully breaking because they feel all this sense of guilt where they're like, I'm charging all this money and they're not even getting that many sessions with me. And it's like, who cares if you help them get the result? They could have no sessions with you and it's still better than if you pumped them full of like 30 sessions, but they didn't actually get the transformation that you wanted them or that they were paying for. So I think that's probably the number one perspective shift that will totally transform somebody's business is transitioning from you get paid for how many people you see and how many hours you see face to face to you get paid for how good you are at helping somebody get a result, no
Mm.
matter what the actual process is for getting that result.
We found that 100% when we transferred to group programs, we were actually getting better results. So the people interacting with each other, there's the community, there's still, and I remember, Laura, I remember getting like far into, because I started to just one-on-one. I remember getting really far into a package, maybe like 4 months out of 6 months, and finding out some information from the person that we'd been meeting every week. I forget what it was, but it was like a habit. It was like I drink many, many Diet Cokes a day kind of habit. It was something that I was like, huh, how did we miss this one?
Yeah.
Like that wasn't even one of my questions, right? Like it just didn't come up, or I didn't think to ask you XYZ. And then of course, when you have modules and we have groups, like you can have all the basics of everything. So that stuff is covered, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to go, well, did I think to ask them about that? Right? It's in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, either you're going to possibly forget if you don't have any sort of process. And then it's like, oh, shoot, we didn't even talk about this and we probably should have, or I didn't even think to ask you that. Or you're saying it multiple times to the same person because they didn't hear you the first time. They didn't remember the first time. And I'm not saying that to condescend anybody. Like I forget stuff all the time. I need to hear things a few times to really take it in. So if you need your people to hear things a few times, then do you really want to be repeating yourself over and over for multiple sessions, which I actually think would be a waste of the time that they're paying you for versus having a video about that particular topic that they can watch. And if it comes up again in a session, whether it's a group or a one-on-one session, you can say, hey, I recommend go watching that video. And then we can see how, if we need to customize the implementation, I can help you with that. But I think you'll get more out of watching this video than me spending 20 minutes out of our hour reminding you about the thing we already talked about, a month ago that you just happen to not have absorbed on our last conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like people need repetition. I know, I forget who says this. I know James, our mutual mentor, often says repetition is the mother of mastery. I'm sure there's somebody else that is actually that quote, but I get a lot of people who the clients I work with are so worried. Oh my gosh, like what if I talk about something in my program on social media? Aren't people going to be mad that I shared it for free when I had shared it in the program that they paid for? And my personal experience is I get I get so much value from consuming my coach's free stuff
Mhm.
that it's reinforcing what I paid for. And I'm hearing it differently because I've decided I'm paying for their service. And so the worst case scenario is that the person's like, oh, interesting. Like, we learned about that in the program. And actually, the best case scenario is that you're reinforcing the value of what the person already paid for, because most people that work with you are also then going to consume your free stuff. That's just my
Mhm.
experience, is like, it's rare that you would work with somebody that's like, I have no interest in following you on social media or listening to your podcast or anything like that.
Right. Those are like our most gung ho people who show up to our free stuff. They're all
Yeah.
there, like they've got their notebook. They know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Right.
I've paid one mentor at this point, probably about $90,000 to work with him. And I listen to his podcast, not religiously, because I definitely take breaks or whatever, but I listen to it very frequently. And at no point would I ever feel like I had gotten ripped off because he said something on that podcast that he had said at one of our events, right? So,
Mhm.
and if somebody is in that mindset, then maybe that's not the person you want to work with anyway, right? Like somebody who would be that petty to be like, I paid you to learn that information. You shouldn't ever say it to the public, right? So, it's so interesting just how many weird beliefs we have, and ones that I would never think that somebody would have, that I find out about because I'm interacting with someone that has that belief. And it's just so interesting that so many of my clients have these totally made up beliefs about, oh, somebody's going to be upset if I talk about something on Instagram that I had in our program. And that is something that literally blocks them from sharing on social media because they don't want to like upset their paying clients. And
Mm.
so, I think it's really helpful to examine anything that's preventing you from doing what you want to do or what you feel like you should be doing in your business, such as sharing publicly your expertise, figuring out why, like what's underneath that, what's stopping me from doing it, and actually finding out if those beliefs are even real, right? To believe that your paid clients are going to be upset if you talk about something on social media is just not reality. And if that's the reason you're not sharing your expertise publicly, then that's probably a good reason your business isn't as profitable and successful as it could be. So I'm always looking for those kind of beliefs in my own life, and then I'm always helping be the mirror for my clients who for whatever reason they pick up these beliefs somewhere, don't know where, because I really don't know where that belief would have come from. But just helping them see that the things that are allegedly preventing them from doing what they want to do are just made up, and they can just decide to not believe that anymore.
Well, we'll make up all sorts of stuff, right? Just protection. So they maybe didn't even pick them up, because sometimes you're like, well, that seems like a good way for my brain to, be like, not going to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. There's a 1% chance that somebody could be upset if I talk about this topic for both my paid and my free audience. And that 1% is just too much of a risk to take.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember there were a few weird things that I focused on early in business that could have potentially been a huge problem that never were. And it was, it's fear. So
yeah.
we bring them in. But I remember when you said at the end of the event, Laura, you're like, well, if you don't have the business you want, or if you don't feel like you're going to the place that you want, you're probably lacking. It's a skill you're lacking, or it's a belief. And I remember in my head, I was like, oh, this is so good, because Laura's got all the skills, and like our business is more focused on the beliefs. And I'm like, all right, perfect. Go get all the skills from Laura. We both do skills and beliefs, but
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Yours is skills of changing beliefs, and mine is
yeah,
beliefs that allow you to implement your skills.
right. Yes, right. It's like it was like, oh, this is such a good combo. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, will you tell everybody like where would be the best place to come find out about these skills and start learning them and implementing? I know you had the blueprint, that they could come get, or where do you think's the best spot?
Yeah. Well, of course, I share lots of stuff that I also share in my paid programs. Not every single little thing, but I do share a ton on Instagram. So you can follow me at Laura Schoenfeld RD. And then we do have a free training all about the 6-step blueprint that I teach my clients inside of our Nutrition Business Accelerator program. So we basically in that training go through the 6 steps that are required for you to have a successful, profitable online health business without burning out. I say without burning out because obviously you can make 6 figures seeing 40 clients a week, right? Like that's something you could do, but as we were saying, it's probably not something any of us want to do, let alone could keep doing for very long. So I'm pulling back the curtain, as they say, for the actual process that you have to go through to be able to really charge the amount that you need to charge and to design services that minimize how much of you that needs to be in it for the person to get more value than what they're paying for. So I know not everybody's wanting a higher ticket one-on-one program or a scalable program, but really we specialize in helping health professionals design a high value, high ticket one-on-one offer that then can be transitioned into a hybrid or a group program. I have found that that is the fastest way to make 6 figures in your business without having to work with more than 20 hours of clients a week, a lot of times less. And I know it's not the only way. I'm not the kind of coach that says this is the one only best right way, but I do think after everything I've been through and after everything I've seen my clients achieve, it really is the fastest path. Like it's the shortest path. It's not, successful entrepreneurship is not easy. I never want to sell somebody that like sipping Mai Tais on the beach laptop lifestyle where they work 2 hours a week or something. Like that's not usually what most people are experiencing. But it also doesn't have to be as hard as what most people are making it. And I feel like the 6 steps that we share in the program, as well as in that training, is truly, if you want to get there fast and you want to do it without sacrificing your own well-being, that's the way that I've seen work the best.
Awesome. So we will link in the show notes directly to that blueprint and your Instagram and all that good stuff. So anything else you want to share before we go, Laura? This has been really, really fabulous. Super helpful way of thinking about things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely, I feel like with my, my new and improved mom brain, I tend to just go off and start talking about stuff. So I hope that people found the rambles to be valuable. And I don't know. I think if I was going to leave people with anything, it would be to just know that this is possible. Know that you can be successful in an online health and nutrition business. It doesn't have to mean that you're working a million hours or spending all this time dancing on social media, or that you have to sell your soul and not care about your clients to do it. I really like the event that I ran that you were at, like just the number of people who left having such a transformed future that's what I live for. And I love doing it. And it doesn't mean that I have to sacrifice my own well-being to be able to help people have those transformations. And I'm of the mindset that I'm going first. So I hope that people can see me as someone that can inspire them to also live that way, but also to just get around people that are doing what you want to do, because that honestly can be one of the most transformative things, is just believing it's possible and seeing why it's even worth doing because somebody else is doing it. So yeah, I don't know if that was super concise, but I just seeing how quickly things can change for people is what really lights me up. And I know it does for you too. So it is.
Well, let me just share. I feel like I want to just share really quickly too what happened at your event for me, because that quick transformation. So I'm in a space where there's a bunch of people. We're all excited about learning and growing and connecting. And I had been noodling on starting a new Instagram account for like 9 months. And so you asked us like to raise our hand and share something we're committing to. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to do it. So I committed to creating it before the next day, basically, because we weren't there that long. And it's been the most fascinating thing, Laura. I think it was just really highly an energetic piece, because I was torn between speaking to the people that we've helped for so long with hormone health. And now we speak a lot. we have a lot to share directly with coaches. And our Instagram didn't really show that. So I started this new account, and right now I think maybe it's at almost 200 followers, right? But the most fascinating thing is that I don't know if I'm changing what I'm doing because I'm more excited and more clear, or if this is whatever energetic, but the reels and things that I'm posting on the new account are doing like 10 times better than they used to. Like I have one over 20,000, and our reels just weren't doing that. They weren't doing anything. And I'm like, what is this? Because there's not more people. Mm-hmm. I know I still have the ability to share with our other accounts. So some of them I'm sharing both places. So I'm not pretending like there aren't people on our, Becoming Zesty account, of course, but they weren't seeing it when I posted it there. So it was cool. It was it wasn't actually a big step to do when I physically did the profile. It took like 20 minutes. It's the decision to do the thing. And it was really cool to just ride that energy of being in a live event.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to that thing I shared towards the beginning of our conversation about a lot of my success or results that I get are because I just decide I'm going to do something. Mm-hmm. And the amount of energy that people waste in the decision process is probably enough to grow $1 million a year business, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, imagine if you took all that energy waffling and saying, I don't know, should I mean, I know you teach this, that part of me wants to do this and part of me wants to do that. And just staying in that like indecision, that's literally the least powerful place to work from is, I don't know, I can't decide kind of thing, right? Whether it's a yes or no, either of those choices are far more powerful and far more effective for propelling you to the next thing. And so I think for your experience, there was an energy in the room of let's go, let's make a decision. And making that decision was what created those results for you. So, so that's something where I do find a lot of people get into this, like, I can't decide, so I'm just going to not make a decision. And I really feel like that kills a lot more dreams and results than making the wrong decision, even because even a wrong decision, you're still going to learn more from the no decision. Right. So, so be decisive, take action on decisions, and know that the decision itself will get you farther on the path, whatever the decision is, than being stuck in that, I don't know, so I'm just gonna not decide.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here, Laura.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Megan.
Thanks for coming to hang out with us on the podcast. It is our goal to lead others through accelerated transformation that takes all parts of ourselves into account. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. At almost 2 million downloads and quickly heading to 3, we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more and more people and help them learn how all 4 bodies, physical, mental, emotional, and energetic, work so they feel empowered to be, do, and have whatever they want in life.
If you find this podcast helpful, please take a moment to text 5 friends you think might benefit and leave us a review. It means so much to share this work that has transformed our lives with others. We appreciate your help so much and can't wait to see you next time.